Hello and welcome. This is a compositing tutorial from Nuke showing some basic principles in compositing. I'm going to open up some footage and renders which have been pre-prepared, which are all available free to download online. I'll give you the link is below and at the end of this section. So going to the read node, which is R on the keyboard, you can navigate to find the footage, and if you press the next each time you select one, it will open all of them together. So we're just going through each of the directories to load in the footage, which there are various layers. You can see briefly in the thumbnail each one, the ones that are visible anyway. So this is a jet fighter which has been made in 3D with a 3D environment, and there's live action footage of the pilot who will composite into the cockpit of the plane. So once we've hit open, these nodes all open up. We can spread them out and organize them. Have a look at some of these. We've got a background with some sky and sea there. I'm just changing the workspace a bit so you can see these a bit better. Yeah, so there's the background, the backplate. Here, got the main render of the plane. So there's an F-15 fighter plane rendered in 3D. This is a beauty pass render of the whole thing with the windows in solid. And over here we have the live action footage, which is shot green screen and has been treated already and reduced down to a small size. Talking about the size, where we should go to the project settings and just double check that they are set to the same resolution and frame duration as all of these shots, just so that our project is working in the same resolution. The default is a much higher size generally, so over 2K, whereas this whole project is in American standard NTSC, so it's just 720 pixels wide. The setting for that is in the defaults. This one, 69. Yes. You click on that when you're sure you know which one it is. And that sets the correct resolution, and we've also got the right duration now. Scrolling back through there, it should all be incorrect. So here's our beauty pass render of the aeroplane, and there's some various patches for behind and in front. This one's for the ending, just this end bit here to cover the pilot when the plane turns around. And the other patch here is to cover over the pilot. So this is the bit that goes over the pilot's legs in front of her body. She's in that cockpit area there. And this is the mask for the actual cockpit glass. So we're just using the alpha channel for that, just the mask area. We can put the glass back over the pilot, and there's a cloud layer which will go over the background, just an effects pass which has been rendered separately. So all this footage is free to download from this website, which have lots of useful pieces of footage and sets of footage can be used for educational purposes. So going to our green screen footage, we'll just bring that over here, and we would rename it possibly so we know what it is coming in. So we're going to start with this and get a key out of this first. So first thing we might do is find the shuffle node, we want to get rid of the alpha channel. It's got a solid white alpha channel in the footage, and we just use the shuffle node to switch that from solid white to solid black, so there's no alpha on it at all. And then put it into a key light. So we tab, put key light up, our main chroma key here. So it's got various inputs that come with it: in matte, background, outer matte. There's this sort of garbage matte inputs and outputs that we can add to this. To get the key, we go up here to screen color, click on the black box so that a dropper comes up, and then holding control and touching onto the green background will pull a key. You can instantly see the key turning the green background to a transparent or black result. Just click on the A button so we can see the alpha channel, and then we can tweak the chroma key settings till we got a fairly solid black background where the green was. We don't have to worry about every shadow on the ground because lower down there they won't be visible. So we can pull those settings. We want to keep the pilot as solid white as possible and get the background to a good black without pulling the levels too high, degrading the edges. There's a little problem there where we see the face becoming slightly transparent towards the end. I'm not going to worry about that. That can be garbage matted with an inner matte, or in matte, or in M, as it says on the inputs to the key light. So if we scrub back through this, we can have a look if it's okay all the way through. So we will need a garbage mat to cut out the pilot roughly to remove all of this studio equipment, the tracks on the floor, the light stands, all of that we need to take out, but we can take it out fairly easily with a garbage mat. So we're going to find a roto node. We tab the roto, and we'll make a roto node. So we're going to rotoscope a Bezier shape around the pilot. So go to Bezier, and make points, and pull out handles from the points so that we get a rounded shape. We just want to go fairly close to the pilot, making enough points to control it, but not too many to have too many to work with. So something like that should be enough. This is so we can cut out the basic shape. We'll keyframe it. So we'll move some frames and then we'll scale it and move individual points if necessary, keeping it close enough to the edge. We don't have to go right up to it, so we crop anything. Just adjusting some of the keys here and there. Okay. So moving back towards the first frame from the middle, we can zoom in on the footage so we can see everything clearly. Keep adjusting our shape, and just for this process I'm speeding up 6 times. Speeding up 6 times what I did, so just get through the roto, still see how it was done, but not quite so slowly, because it takes a few minutes to do this. So now working forwards from the middle towards the end of the sequence, you can pull multiple keys by boxing over them and pulling them around, and then work on individual keys, move on maybe 20-30 frames, pull the keys around again, keep working towards the end. So where these objects are, these bars are going behind the character, they would need to be cleaned up as well eventually if they're visible in shot, which they will be. But this mask is just to get the basic cut out for now. So it would require further roto work to remove the little bars that go behind her head, behind the chair. So switching to the alpha mode, we're going to get our input sources. And this is an inner mat. I think this is the wrong one. Let's just check how that looks. It doesn't do anything to begin with, but you do have to switch on. You have to switch on the masking from the masks. So it's in the out M bar, and then here you see the out M component. You switch it from none to mask, I think, or inverted alpha. Switch to inverted alpha now. Now that roto has removed all the studio around the pilot, and we've just got the basic keyed character live action. And we'll be using this roto for patching other parts onto the sequence later. So the footage is quite dark, and by default the result of the key is on black background, so it's a bit hard to see the edges. So we're going to put in a sort of dummy background for now. So plugging in a constant node into the BG input of the key light, we can just make it constant, and we'll pull its levels from black to grey colour, and then we can see that although we put that into the background, you don't see any change to begin with, but that's because the key light node is just still set to final result at the top there. So see here, this says final result, and that's just showing the key's own result. You need to go down to composite, and now it's showing the key composited onto the background that you allowed into the node. So we can now see it on grey, and which gives us a much clearer view of the edges and the shadows and anything else in the key, and how it's sort of working. You still see a few of the small objects just behind her that are inside the garbage mat, but they're something that we could remove later on. Down there there's shadows, but again they'll be covered up, so we're not worried about those at all. I'm just putting a backdrop behind the key area. This is like one small part of our comp. It's a section where we're doing the chroma key, so we could label that as such. Kia. Okay. So next we'll be looking at putting parts of the plane over her and behind her, so we can sort of build up the comp around the pilot. Putting the plane parts around her so that she's enclosed in the cockpit space. So this first patch is a side of the plane that's been rendered This is just the bit which shows up as the sequence ends. So we'll bring both the patches over to our comp, both patch sections, and we're going to add them to the scene. Do this one, the back. We're going to add the back matte first, so just get a merge, plug it into our key, it's over. So here we see that this is the geometry that's been rendered, and yes, it covers her up. So we've got the inputs in the right way around, and we only need to see it covering up here at the very end. We don't need the other part of the shot that we saw earlier. Just at this end, you see all of this. We don't need that. We just want it from here onwards. So to make that happen, what we do is we go to the merge, and there's a mix. It shows sort of how much is showing through. So we just take it down to 0 and put in a key there. Or you can right click on that 0 and put in a keyframe. And just move forwards 1 or 2 frames and dial it up to 1. Keyframe that so that it's basically switching on. And now you don't see it earlier on. It's not there, and it just appears at the end where we need it. So that's just been turned on. That's sort of frame 200 and something. It comes on just for the end sequence where we need it. Okay, so taking the other patch, another merge, laying it over the pilot. So this one is the patch which appears over her. So we'll need that throughout the sequence up to the point where it flips over to here. So most of the sequence, this is going to be covering up her legs and half her body. Now we don't need all of it. We just need the bit near her and around her. So to just take that section, we go back to our roto that we made in the Kia, and we're going to combine that with the section of plane that covers her. So we just need it within that red area. So we do another merge there, but the default merge is wrong. So we need to find the right function of the merge to cut out that bit of plane. So looking at the alpha, you can see that the min function is the one we need. That's correct, and it puts that render just over her legs, covering her up, because our roto went all the way around her. It's just the part that we need. You see it comes out black because when we go up to our roto, which is the input in, it says alpha only. It's a alpha only roto shape. The other thing we need to do is go to our constant and take out the alpha from the. We have a grey alpha. All the levels, RGB and A, are all 0.13. So we're just going to put the alpha to 0, so that when we look at that grey input coming in, it doesn't bring in a grey alpha channel. It brings in a pure black one. And we go back to our roto. We want aeroplane in that black area. We don't want to see it just black. All we have to do is change the roto to RGBA. It's only affecting the alpha channel. On RGBA, it now brings through the textured image, textured render in that area. So now we've got the start of a patch. Our pilot has got a bit of aeroplane in front, covering her up from the front and covering her up from the other side too when we switch around. So going to our footage and shots, we'll take the main aeroplane render, bring it over to our tree. Bring in a merge, and we'll just plug that in with just the default over. We can see our pilot in context now, just 50-50 with the airplane that she'll be in eventually. Our next mission is to fill in the cockpit area behind the pilot. Just round here, there should be a dark area of the sort of the hole in the plane cockpit surrounds. Now this was not rendered in 3D, so we don't have that. So we'll need to make a roto shape and sort of simulate it by making a line which sort of mimics the line we can see. So taking a roto shape, we go to the cockpit area. We're going to this line. We're going to take from the cockpit render that we have already, but the top line, which I'm drawing now, has to be handmade. We're just running parallel with the one in the foreground. We're making the back edge of the cockpit, and then when we get to the plane itself, we can just make a rough shape, because that bit is going to come from one of our renders. So we just need that top line needs to be accurate. The bottom one needs to just be over the aeroplane somewhere. So that's about right. So now we can make this. We can combine this roto shape with the with one of the 3D renders that we have. Now this one, the front patch, it's got most of the cockpit front edge that we need, but at the back here, it's not right. It's missing a piece. So this one isn't ideal to use with our roto that we just made. You can still see the roto on screen with the red line. So we'll try another one. We'll go to another piece of footage. See if I think the footage of just the cockpit window that we have would be the best thing to use. So we just go over there to find that. This is it. Glass mat it's called. So yes, this has got the complete bottom line edge that we need to combine with the roto shape, which you can still see in red there. So if you can imagine those two masks combined, we'll just put the two together, the roto shape and the glass mat. We'll click them both and hit M for merge, and it puts a merge there, which is an over, which isn't right. But that we just change the function of the over to one of the subtractive processes. Not that one. Min. So this is right. So now this makes the shape of the cockpit interior that goes behind the pilot, which he sits inside of. Okay. Switching to the RGB view, we see it's brought through that render of the glass mat, which isn't ideal. We want it to be all black. So what we do is we select the glass mat area, we hit G for grade, and we just dial down that render, that grey colour, to a solid black. So now it's just a black hole with an alpha channel. So that's like another part of our tree set up there, the sort of cockpit interior. It doesn't animate yet. We have to keyframe that roto shape for the sequence, but we're going to drop it. We're going to drop it into the sequence now and see how it looks. So just taking the plane render and the merge node, we're going to drop that new cockpit interior straight over the top of the 3D render of the plane. And you can sort of see what that will look like. Now this top bit looks strange now because there's a bit of the cockpit there, so that needs to be removed as well. So before we drop the cockpit interior, we need to remove the actual glass cockpit from the render there. So using the glass mat, we can just merge that over. So the black the graded black shape from the glass mat has just blocked out that part of the render. And then further down the tree we have our cockpit interior replacing it basically. So now when you look at the alpha channel, we've got the new cockpit interior replacing the old glass, but the glass has left both parts have left a sort of thin line you can see that we need to fix. So to do that, we will tab in an erode node. The erode affects the alpha channel of the whatever's going in, and it's actually made that line thicker, but it's at +1 at the moment, and we can go to -1, and then it's sort of dilating instead of eroding, like doing the opposite of an erode, and that will remove that thin line by just making the mask a bit bigger. Okay, you understand that? That's removed the top one, and we've still got this black, this other one. There's a thin line there between the cockpit interior and the plane's edge. We need to take that out, so we use the same process. Put in a erode before that one, it makes it worse to begin with. We dial it down to -1, and it's cleared that black line away. So that would appear as a thin, transparent line otherwise, so we need to get rid of that. So that's fixed. So now we've got the plane with a blackened out cockpit interior, replacing the previous, the original render with the plane with a glass window rendered into it. So if we plug that, going back to looking at the pilot and the plane render, we now need to animate that rotor node for the cockpit interior, because it's just set up for one frame. So we're looking at the plane and the pilot together, but we're actually working on the rotor node by double clicking that, and then moving the keyframes down. We just need to match the back line with the cockpit's front line. We're working backwards now towards frame 1. At this point they're even, so after that point we can just hide the roto shape out of the cockpit area. Quickly go to frame 1 and go back to the middle. This is all sped up 6 times again, just to make it a bit more bearable to watch. It takes a while to get it accurate. You see here, especially that left side, we need to make sure that's sort of accurate and always running parallel with the side you can see on the right hand side. And when it gets to facing us, we just need to follow that shape basically through to the end. Which comes quick at 6 times normal speed. So picking up the keys, scaling them, rotating them, and then tweaking them individually, we soon get through that roto business, and we can scrub right through the sequence, make sure it's working. Kind of imagine it a bit just from looking at the shape, but go back to the other side of the tree. Now we can see that cockpit interior flicking back and forth between the alpha channel. We can see that matches all the way through the sequence. So that plane is sort of ready now for being put onto a background. So we go over, get our last 2 pieces of the puzzle. We're going to get the background and put the plane over that. Just need to shift things a bit, make room for some new nodes, some new inputs, some new read nodes. Move the two background elements down here. So here's the C. Click the end of the plane tree. Hit M and join them up. Now we put the C over the plane, which is the wrong way around. So you can hit Shift X, but not in the viewer mode. Just Shift X just swaps the inputs A and B round. So now our plane is over the C. Looking good. I just hid the roto node so we didn't see those red lines anymore. You can sort of see the final effects. We've got a plane with open cockpit inside it now. So next thing to do to get our pilot, add that to the plane. So this is where two halves come together now. Get the side of the plane in the background. Oh, actually, we're still missing. We'll just put the cloud layer into the background. So this is just the two parts to the background. So we'll just add the cloud to the C with a merge node, and that's coming the wrong way round. So it's just like putting the cloud as a solid over the C. But that's okay because it's Nova. It's just showing it solid. But we just switch it to a screen or a plus, and then the clouds actually sort of become transparent, and you can just see the white areas, the clouds themselves showing up. We just dial it down so they're not solid white 100%. We've got some control over those clouds now as a separate layer. So there's our complete background with aeroplane. So we just select the patch, the pilot, and the patch that goes with it, and the aeroplane. Not a blur, sorry. Select them again, and M. So now we've merged the two together. Now we see it's semi-transparent because our pilot hasn't been pre-molted. So we need a pre-molt node on the pilot side of that tree. Now it's laid pilot and the patches that cover her straight on top of the plane, and they're sort of pretty seamless. Scroll through, have a look, and see. It's very dark in that cockpit because we haven't got a proper glass. Cockpit cover over the sequence yet. You can see the shape of it where it's coming through, but there's that element still to add on, which goes on top, like the last piece, because it goes on top of that. It sort of worked from the background and the elements that went behind her first. We end it on the reflective glass, which goes over the cockpit area. Just tidying up these bits, we'll just drag that away one side, the part that makes up the plane, and label it. Grab the parts that make up the background elements, mark them. It's much easier to come back to. There are still things to add to all of these, but for fine tuning. But we label them up clearly now. It's always a good practice. Oops. Oh. Try again. No. And again. Ah, yes. Okay. So this bit is the pilot patches, I suppose. So I put together the pilot key. Yeah. Our background can go in the key there. It's part of the keying process, so that can go in there. We're not seeing that grey anymore, but we're going to get rid of it later. Served its purpose. So going to the cockpit. So the glass mat has got the matte we need, and the main render has got the reflective surface that we need. So we need to combine those two. We can use a copy node. Copy will copy the alpha from one and add it to the RGB of the other. So we've got them the right way around, which we haven't. So, oops, no. Shift X, Shift X. Should switch them. Nope. Why not? Ah, of course, yes. It has to be Shift. Can't do Shift X on the actual viewer. Do Shift X over here. Switch them around. Yes, so now we've got the alpha, window, and the window. So this copy node has now put the alpha, switched it into the plane render, so that we can just cut out the glass. Make some room for those. Just enlarge that box. Bring it out. Don't want too many of these crossing each other. It sort of makes it really confusing. So tidying them up somehow, it helps. Rearrange everything sometimes just to see a clear flow of your nodes. Okay, so that copy node is using two nodes that we've already used in the tree, so just moving things around so you can see clear paths from one to the other is really handy, just to see quickly what's going on. So just to show that copy node better, we pre-molted it so we can see exactly what it's done. We've just cut out the window, and then a merge node to put that window on top of the final comp, and then we view that with the viewer. Yeah, so it's stuck that window as a solid mass straight on top of everything we've done. Actually, we don't want it that solid. We just dial it right down so it's transparent. It's transparent glass. Yeah, that's much nicer. Now, because we put it in at just like 10% or something, the highlights on that glass have become transparent as well, which they should still be quite strong. So what we do is we'll take the same window piece of footage and put a grade on it, and then we'll tweak that grade around the level, we'll pull the contrast on it so that the highlights really stand out, but other parts just get darker. So we just want to pick out the brightest highlights. And doing that has made it a very bright blue, so we just put a saturation node on as well. The saturation will turn it down so it becomes more black and white. Put another merge node from that one, with a pre-molt as well, and this one will screen it over or plus it over, so that's now made just the highlight areas brighter. So we'll turn it down a little bit so it's not full on. We got sort of one transparent layer which is very transparent to see through, and then we've put in the brightest highlights again just to give it more specularity, more reflectivity. It looks like more convincing glass. So just looking at our tree as a whole, so we've got a new part here, which is the cockpit glass. So we'd make a new backdrop, call it glass, and it looks a bit like the other one, so maybe we change the colour, and that's not doing it, and then it's the other one, it's the other one, there you can change the colour. So five parts to this tree so far. Good, we can maybe scroll through a little bit. So looking at this, we've got a rather ropey, dodgy edge on the glass. something to do with the pre-molts and maybe the grading, as the high contrast pool might have affected the edge and degraded it, so we need to fix that. Also here where the patch goes over the plane, the patch of the pilot that we put on, it's brought in a bad edge that shows up. So there's two things to fix there. So I'm looking at the glass first. We just look at the two inputs and see which one is the culprit if it's not both of them. So we're going to put an erode node in. Again, is useful for fixing bad edges. It seems to have improved that already, no end. Just on the default of 1. Putting that in there has improved that edge. You can see if we turn it on, off, we can see it's affecting the bottom edge as well. Now this white line and this line going right through the sequence, and you can see giving away our comp where we patched that in. So we need to fix that, and that's coming from this background that we put in earlier on to see our edges. So we don't need this anymore. So this background, we could make it black, and that's got rid of it. The fact that it was grey was just bringing through a grey edge around the edge of the roto shape. But we could just disconnect it completely, but we'll leave it there in case we need it again. So there's our final render. We'll need more work, but this has got all the layers and parts in place now. So that concludes this part of it for now. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks.